Hey everyone, James from TDB here bringing you another Inbetweenisode. Today I am going to be talking about two different iron cakes, going to really be focusing on storage and why storage is so important and how storage really is one of the primary determining factors of kind of the end product of the cup of tea that you end up drinking when it comes to pour, specifically when it comes to Xiaguan. So I'm drinking the 1999 Xiaguan Iron Cake 8653. So this is a very nice tea, frankly speaking. So it's a good quality tea. Most of the Xiaguan from this period, or a lot of it, is quite good, and this is a good production overall. However, both of these teas have been stored in ways that are, in my opinion, a little bit suboptimal, and suboptimal in different ways. So going to be talking about that as we drink these teas side by side. When it comes to Xiaguan in particular, it's really important to get good storage. The older you get, the more likely you are to get something that was a little bit more haphazardly stored as far as dank. And as you get younger and younger teas, you'll often have stuff that's a little bit more towards the dry storage zone. And so in this case, we have one that's in my opinion, a little too dry stored, or at least needs a little bit more time, and one that's definitely a little bit too aggressively stored, or something seems to be off with it overall. Let's get into the tasting, and I will tell you where both of these teas are from as we start drinking it. Okay, so one thing I have done is I made sure to break up the iron cake pretty good for both of these ones. So definitely you don't want to be working with anything remotely that's a very big chunk. You want them to be pretty small. That includes breaking leaves. Your goal, if it's the same as mine, is not to have really, really pretty leaf at the end after you brewed it all out, but to simply make a good cup of tea. So that is really what I'm after. So I am going to start with brewing these teas. I might give this a second rinse, but we're going to see how they're doing. We want this water to be nice and hot. Iron cakes in particular brewing, I think, I'm not going to say it's hard per se, but it does require some experience to do evenly. Basement wood menthol certainly smells like the heavier stored one. And much greener, more resinous. Smells not bad, actually. I'm kind of curious. The dry stored version I have not had in some time. So the dry stored version was from a vendor on Tmall, or basically Taobao. And a group of us got together and wanted to just try some of their teas. So did group buy, split them like 4 or 5 ways. And unfortunately, all the tea was a little too dry stored for our purposes. So I don't think anyone ended up buying more. But that's kind of what happens, and that's why you want to split the burden, because when you're talking about teas that are, $400, $500 like these cakes are, you don't want to, it just can be some very expensive tuition to get burned like that. So yeah, in the end, it's interesting to try, and it helps to kind of build that data set in your mind. So, I mean, tuition is not without a point oftentimes. Okay, and then here we go over here. So yeah, these iron cakes, usually what I'll do is I'll brew them a little bit harder on the first couple steeps. You can even take your time a little bit after the rinse. This one definitely smells a bit wetter. The second one of this is from Shenfeng, where there was a group buy. So shout outs to Phobos for helping to coordinate and make that happen of this tea. And unfortunately, in my opinion, that tea is also a bit of a dud, mostly because it's too wet. You can almost tell from the colors which is which, even though this is still pretty early. Iron cakes in particular, the extraction is just going to be a little bit different than a more loosely pressed tea, in particular, like more of those very modern, like if you have a white tea 2025, whatever, it's going to, extract a lot differently than something like this. So definitely all cakes are not created equal, and iron cakes in particular are pretty heavily pressed. And in my opinion, the Xiaguan pressings have gotten have gotten a little bit less tight as the years have gone by. I think I'll drink this just because we are comparing the storage, and we'll see if we want to push these a little bit on some of these subsequent infusions. Cheers. Resinous, decently thick. It's not quite as dense as I would hope. It's kind of like this interesting pine wood finish. I I would say this is probably not even as far along as the 2005 Xiaguan thick paper that I like to drink, which is just more ideally stored. And one reason I always go back to MXT for Xiaguan, particularly if they have something that's interesting, is I find their storage to be quite ideal for Xiaguan teas. So yeah, one thing I am noticing is it has a very nice intensity that is lingering on the palate and is converting to a lot of sweetness. But however, the initial flavors are not ideal for me as far as like just its overall greenness of profile. So here we go. Cheers. Smooth, milky, woody, just not that active. I mean, we're really talking about opposite spectrums here. This one is very active. This one has clearly, the Shenfeng tea, some of the one where the storage has gone wrong, they're interesting in the sense that it's a little challenging to figure out what exactly happened. There's a lot of different theories. Was it too humid? Was it too humid? And then they aired it out with a bunch of fans, and then it got screwed up that way too. I don't totally know, frankly. So we'll take a look at the wet leaf at the end of this, see if that offers any clues. But all of the strength and the activity that you would want from a factory tea from this period is not there. It's not in this initial infusion. So I'm going to steep these guys a little bit harder on the second infusion, so maybe about 10 seconds each. So yeah, on the initial infusion, yeah, I mean, they are both a little flawed. I would definitely say I prefer this one on the right. I'm guessing this is the Shenfeng tea, and this is the one from the other vendor whose name is escaping me. This one is kind of in that range of being slightly smoky, slightly retired smoky. Okay, so we'll go 10 seconds here. Yeah, and you can tell that, these teas are the same age. I believe they are the same teas period, and they're just totally different. Nothing alike. So storage is extremely important. People that tell you that storage doesn't matter, I don't know what to say, but it seems like a very, very lazy conclusion to draw. Let that go for 10 seconds as well. And I would probably buy neither of these teas. Just the reality of things. Maybe I'm just steep that a little bit too short, but we'll find out. And we will take a smell of both of these. Has a nice aroma to it, like some camphor and stuff. Yeah, I do wonder. Maybe it was traditionally stored, but maybe not super well. You would think something traditionally stored well would maintain a little bit more, intensity, activity to this. And this smells a lot closer to being kind of right. And I did sample this tea actually originally in a kind of a period where I wasn't drinking tea as prolifically as I am right now, and I also wasn't having a ton of Xiaguan tea, so it is a little bit interesting to revisit it as a result. The Shenfeng tea, on the other hand, is more within the past year, so I think it's showing as a little bit of a dud as far as it goes. Certainly not living up to its price tag or to the kind of like era that it's from. Cheers. Woody, thick-ish. It's not even that thick, honestly. A little oily. It's perfectly drinkable, but pretty unexciting. And moving to this one. Cheers. This is a good tea. I actually like this. So interesting. This is snuck up on me. This is not nearly as bad as I thought it might be. I thought this was a little greener storage. So basically, the story with this vendor is they store they're based in Shenzhen, and they do climate controlled storage. What does that mean exactly? I think it basically means that they store the tea in a room where they have AC rather than a little bit more naturally stored, which if you are in a place that's fairly hot and humid, like southern China, Guangdong, or Shenzhen in this case, it's definitely going to make a pretty large impact on kind of the end outcome. Yeah, this is good. This is like herbal, resin, wood, pine. It's not quite there. It does take more time, I think. And I don't know, maybe this little sample that I've been storing for a while has turned the corner on its own. I'm not totally sure, but this is actually pretty solid. I'm taken aback by how decent this actually is. Yeah, that's a good one. Let's do one last steep on both of these guys, and then we're going to give them a nice long soak and take a look at the wet leaf here. Going to go for 10 seconds again. I can tell from the way that the leaves are that they have been kind of unfurling, so I think we are getting pretty good extraction from them at this point. One thing that is interesting too is I don't find that either of these teas really resembles the 8653s from like Teas We Like, for instance, or MXT. So it's interesting. It's definitely like not quite the same as the 2001. And I don't totally know if that's because the recipe is a little bit different in this year or the storage makes a big impact. I don't totally know. So, but like compared to the 8653 Teas We Like cells from 2001, a tea I like quite a bit, which is really strong. Probably just as strong as this 1999. That tea has a profile that's very reminiscent of the 2005 thick paper and some of the other good 8653s. The profile here is different. Okay, so you can see that we are getting a red color and a darker red color. Nice mouth coating effect on this one. And I know Shanfeng supposedly does not sell fake, so if that's basically how I am rolling that out. But I suppose that is always a possibility too, is that the teas are actually different. But this is some nonsense stuff that was just stored wet. I don't totally know. It's clean enough that it doesn't taste very wet now, but the dankness could have happened at any point. This is going to sound like an insult, but this really tastes like a very premium Jiaji tool. Which is fine because, they're both Xiaguan and they're Xiaguan taste. And I think this is good. Yeah, if this was available for the right price, I take back what I said. I would consider something like this. I think this maybe is just kind of turning that corner now that it's like 26 years old. Yeah. I have no problem drinking this whatsoever. Okay, so let's take a look at the Shanfeng one, and then we'll give them a nice soak and take a look at the wet leaf. Cheers. All the activeness in the mouth is gone. I will say it is probably a little thicker than the tea. It's smoother. I suppose if you just want something kind of dull and smooth, this would be good. But I think if you're drinking pu'er like this, you probably don't want that. You can get that experience for quite a bit cheaper. Yeah, it's fine. I think if expectations were more appropriately set lower, I think someone could be satisfied with this 1999. I don't find it dirty or anything like that. So yeah, let's give these teas a soak and take a look at the wet leaf. Alright, so I forgot to do the reveal, but it's pretty obvious. The one that was on my left is the wetter stored one from Shanfeng, and the one on the right is from the vendor in Shenzhen. And you can see that there is a clear difference in the color of the leaves. So yeah, this one over here that I'm touching right now on my left is the is the Shanfeng one that has been wetter stored. And this one on the right, you could see, is the vendor in Shenzhen. Definitely kind of like this dark olive-ish green going on, borderline brown at points. And that one's really coming along. I like that tea quite a bit. So thank you all for tuning in. I will see you all next time.